Hello, Dino here from sunny London. Slightly different view. There we go. Just move the monitor down a little bit. Actually, in the office, it's sunny again, which is lovely. I'm going to talk to you about day two, and also just a few tweaks and a few thoughts on day one. Not major, but I thought they were worth talking about. So, having worked on day two, there's just a few things I think are worth tweaking. When I've talked about gold, silver, bronze, so what I said is at the end of the day, you basically then say, I would love to speak to this person, and if I had, say, 5 people I'd like to speak to, these are the 5 people. Whereas before we had gold, silver, bronze, 3 people plus a wild card. I think actually if we try and say you're going to have 5 meetings tomorrow, who are the 5 people you'd like to talk to? Maybe they have 7 stickers, of which case if they can't get all 7, then the top 5 will be it. However, I think 5 meetings sounds about right. Now, what there's also a point that I then thought about was at the end of the day, they hand us their cards. We need to get the cards in because we need to sort them all out and make sure they're delivered to the right person. But we didn't really talk about delivering them to the right person. So what happens is at the end of the day, all the cards get sort of piled in because obviously the last person will have just spoken. They go into the big pile. We then probably need to do a little bit of work at that point, sorting all the cards out to who they're going to. And then for each person, we then just basically go through the cards, find out anything with a sticker on it, pull those out, and then go, right, these go into the spreadsheet of people who want to meet. So that's all cool. So when do the people get their cards back? Because obviously all of these cards contain interesting information or connections they want to make. We've then got a choice, is how quickly do we think we can do that? Or do we try and get them to them that night so that they can at least read them in their hotel room, that sort of thing. So ideally, we put in a little bit of legwork right after day one to make sure that these cards are all either scanned so that we can then give them the cards, but we've at least got scanned versions to do our analysis on, or we do it really quickly somehow and then we give them the cards that evening so that they can go back to their hotels with them, that sort of thing. Either way, they'll end up with their cards at some point. I've also done some sort of pseudocode to figure out how we actually make the connections, so for each round, assuming, by the way, they are here tomorrow and they also want to talk to somebody. So I've added this extra box here, so I do want to talk and I will be here tomorrow. Good, okay, well in which case we can do something with that. If they're not here, if they don't want to speak, then the connection is going to be tricky. So then we look at the value of the sticker. So the 1 sticker, the 2 sticker, and we just go round in rounds. Anybody who is a 1 wants to speak to a 1 and they match up, awesome. Anybody who's a 1 left over who's got to speak to a 2, and so on and so forth until we've used everybody's cards up. If there are any people that are left on the bench who haven't got anybody who wants to speak to them, those are now called the wildcard connections. So we can then just go, right, look, there's somebody over here and somebody over here. If there's 3, i.e. there's an odd number, we put them all in the same conversation. That's all good. But what we do out of that is we actually say, here's your name, here's your list, here's who you're meeting, and here's the table that you're meeting them at. So I'll try and figure out a little bit more logic to that, just so that we don't get to the end of day one and go, hang on a minute, the maths doesn't work. Which I think it should do. Sorry, math. What we then do is go into day 2. There will be some shenanigans, finding your seats, of course. What are we going to do? We're going to do some amazing speed dating. You said yesterday you'd like to speak to somebody. This is where we actually start to really get to talk. Brief the format. You will get probably 5, not 3, but it just fitted in there. So who you're going to, and if we can, the notes of what you said on your card, so you can have a bit of a mind remember there. Round 1 happens 15 minutes, something like that. There will probably be a little bit of kerfuffle in between each one of these rounds, so it might really be these are actually 10-minute rounds, but you've actually got a couple of minutes either side of that where people are moving around, just because of just because. People won't finish exactly on time. There'll be a minute over, plus they have to move. It'll probably take 2 minutes to move. Then they'll get sat down. I'll brief everybody. It'll probably be a minute. You could quite easily eat up 4 minutes in between each round. So I've left them as 15 minutes, but they might only be 10-minute chats. So I think that could work either way. So 3 rounds, you probably might need a coffee break in the middle. It'll be about an hour and a bit in. So if you've been talking for a good 3/4 of an hour, you might want a bit of a coffee break. However, TBC, it's only 2 hours. These are grown-ups. They might be able to last, but Who knows? Then we do the last 2 rounds, and then right at the end of it, there's this sort of the TSA, which I think I've mentioned before, which is there's something about. And what you do is you give everybody the opportunity around the room, one at a time, and every one of them is usually really interesting. You just go, look, you've got one post-it note essentially, or one note. What is there something about? You just go, look, do you know what? There's something about. And it could be from anything. You might say, there's something about, I've met some amazing people here today. There's something about, there's more connections to be made. There's something about, I need to spend more time with these people. There's something about, whatever. There's something about, I love these events. I can't wait for tomorrow. Whatever it is, it's just a really expansive end. You've had a chat. You've had quite intense chats with single people. Let's talk about, like, what is there something about? Let's make it as wide as possible. And just every one of them is usually really fascinating. It's one of the most simple exercises, yet it's fascinating. So that will almost decompress the talk, give people a chance to sort of essentially reflect on what they've been talking about. Only really 30 seconds per person, a minute per person, something like that. 30 seconds if we can do that. It will still probably be a 10-minute really open discussion, or at least a chat. Right at the end of that, you then just do it. Okay, thank you very much for all of that. Hopefully what you've made is you've made a whole bunch of connections. You've hopefully got some things that you're starting to percolate. Maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. In which case, here's some good tips for turning those into actions. You know, make sure you've got their cards. You'll be around them for the next couple of days or not. But make sure that you get a contact, you all that sort of stuff. They're grown-ups. They know how to do this anyway. But it's a glorified outro to say, well done. Hopefully you've made some new connections. Hopefully you all know what's going on. If you do need to make some more connections, you now know the faces, you now know the names, you now know what's going on. And that's where we end. So that's about 2 hours. So I think that's what we talked about, in which case that's the format so far. If that makes a bunch of sense, then that's great. If it doesn't, then let me know. As ever, feedback is always welcome.